All right, let's talk a little bit about the sports product concepts regarding services. Of course, sports services are different from sports goods or sporting goods. Managing sports services often the people who do this refer to the 7 Ps instead of the traditional 4 Ps. And so it takes the traditional marketing 4 Ps and adds 3 more Ps. So when the product is a service, we have the traditional pricing issues, place issues, and promotional issues along with the product service slash issue. Then it adds some things. One of the things that people who manage sports services often talk about is managing the people involved, because the quality of the service often depends dramatically on the quality of the people and how much those people want to provide great service. So, for instance, at UNLV, if UNLV wants to provide great services to the students, the people involved have to have that same level of commitment. The next thing they like to talk about is process. And process is important because it involves deciding how the service is going to be administered or how the service is going to be produced. It has to do with both the process and the training of those individual people. Third is productivity. So one of the questions that you have when you have sports services is productivity. I often stop at the Purple Penguin to get a snow cone on my way home. And so many of you have probably have been to a Purple Penguin around town. One of the interesting things is that you order a snow cone and it takes them about 5 minutes to make a snow cone. Now, I don't know that much about making snow cones, but it seems to me like you ought to be able to make some snow cones faster than that. And so if it takes you 5 minutes to make a snow cone, that really means you can only make 12 an hour. And so I'm not really sure how that process works, but I know that however that process is set up, the productivity is not as high as it should be. And then the final aspect about managing services that is discussed is the physical aspect of the service. That is the physical cues that help customers determine the quality of the service provided. Now, the distinction between goods and services, first off, goods are tangible and services are not tangible, and so they're intangible, and that means you can't pick them up and feel them and try them on and do those sorts of things. So we have this issue of intangibility. Marketers that provide services struggle with this, and so very often they try to provide other cues to demonstrate the quality of the service when people can't actually see, feel, and touch that service. So things that they might do would be to have high quality signage, high quality service provision machinery. They might have their employees in uniforms. They might have my favorite example is carpet cleaning. Now you can have someone come over and clean your carpets, and they could come over and they could bring their own rug doctor with them. And they might clean your carpet, but you're not anywhere near as impressed as the group that comes over and has one of these giant vacuums in the back of their pickup truck, and they bring all the hoses in your house. And it's because they look more professional because they have bigger equipment. Doesn't really mean that they're going to do a better job of cleaning your carpets. It's just one of those ways that they signal their quality of service with, in this case, machinery. The second issue with marketing services is inventory, and this is the issue of perishability. And so the idea behind perishability is this, is that services are perishable. That is, that even if you don't perform a service, that service goes away. An example of this is a hotel room. If you're providing a hotel room and the hotel is a service, an unrented hotel room is gone. Empty airplane seats are gone. Empty parking spaces are gone. And so the issue here is that even if you don't use a service, it perishes, and that is that inventory goes away because it is time sensitive. The next thing that people talk about when they talk about the distinction between goods and services is the inseparability. And then when they talk about inseparability, they mean you can't really separate the service from the people that perform that service. So if you're buying all of your golf clubs at a particular golf store, you might go to that golf store because you like that salesperson, or maybe you like the people there who fit you with the clubs. And they seem to be knowledgeable, and so what happens is that you become loyal to the individual and less loyal to the store. So if that person were to get a job at a different golf store, you would be tempted to go to the other golf store because you have become loyal to that individual. Same thing if you go, for instance, and have your hair cut. You typically are not loyal to that particular hair cutting business. You're typically loyal to the individual that is cutting your hair. This is that issue of the inseparability of services. And as a result, it becomes a more difficult people management issue. And then finally, the thing that people who manage services talk about a lot is consistency and inconsistency. And that is that there's a lot of variability in services that is not the same in terms of physical goods. So if I buy a tennis racket, I can go into a store and there might be 20 Babolet tennis rackets, and I might pick a handful of them up and see how I like the feel of each one and that sort of thing. And sometimes we'll do that with golf drivers and with golf putters and those sorts of things. But once I decide on the sort of the model to buy, they're very consistent between models. That might not be true with a service. So if you're going over to Massage Envy to have a massage done, the person who is involved with that massage might change the quality of the massage depending on how they feel or who actually does the massage. And so when you provide services, it tends to be more difficult to make sure that the service is consistent. That involves then again the issue of people and process and training. Now, evaluating sports service quality, your book talks about something called team qual, which goes back to an old concept referred to as serve qual. Well, I'm not a great big serve qual guy. I don't really believe that this is the right way to evaluate services. Team qual is an offshoot of serve qual, and the idea is very sound. That is, when you're evaluating sports services, you need to evaluate that along 5 dimensions. And so team qual is interested in evaluating service quality, team service quality, in this case, sporting services quality, on 5 dimensions. The first one is reliability. That is the ability to perform the promised service dependably and accurately. The second is tangibility. The appearance of physical facilities, equipment, and personnel, and communication materials that make me comfortable that they are able to provide the service that I expect. Responsiveness, willing to help customers and provide prompt services. Assurance that the knowledge and courtesy of the employees and their abilities to convey trust and confidence. And then empathy. Is the organization caring? Do they provide individualized attention? Do they act like they care about what they're doing? So those are the dimensions then of team qual, and it's a good way to think about evaluating sports services in general. In summary, marketing sports services requires a different set of skills from marketing sporting goods.